I mainly see adults and prefer to, but occasionally when you have the children come in, they love to try and steal the yoga ball as they
feet. They do. And it does make you more personable and approachable as well. And not that you aren't anyway, and you wouldn't really need a ball for that, but it just kind of enhances that.
Yeah. And in fairness, it's better for my posture because otherwise you do this one in the back of the seat versus actually sitting up and using your core. So that's a holistic part of it, you see.
Love it. Love it. So while we're just sorting out the live streaming side of this, can I ask you all just to put where you are, who you are, what you do, and where in the world are you tuning in from, just in the chat box so we can get to know each other a little bit. And so Lisa, who's our guest expert today, holistic psychologist and organizational psychologist, can get a bit of an idea of who she's talking to. Because when you register for our live webinars, you get the opportunity. The people that are watching this live stream don't. So you're super lucky. Just saying. But I do need a couple of seconds just to sort this out.
Hi, Lisa.
Hey, how you doing?
Hi, Marcia. How are you?
Very good.
Yeah, that's great. I sometimes use the yoga ball as well, and I also have something like this. Well, this I can either sit on it, or sometimes I actually put under my feet. So yes. I'm actually, because it's a way of getting present in my body.
Yep. I was going to say that before. It's a very grounding and centering thing, isn't it? Having to actually maintain a posture in an active chair versus the slouching lounge chair version. So yeah, spot on. And some reflexology and a light stimulation on your feet is
so just keep me present, because I also do I know you're a psychologist. I work with people with emotions, but with a different take.
Yeah.
And well, Nicole actually has experienced some of that.
I have, and anyone who wants to know anything about like the neuro-emotional integration technique that Dr. Marcia uses, she helped me overcome a block. Well, she helped me overcome quite a few blocks, which I didn't know were stuck inside my physicality. And as a result, some really wonderful things happened, which is the topic I would suggest of another live. So Dr. Marcia, we should get you on to that.
Yeah, we actually, I know I've been, haven't been in touch. I've been busy.
You've been busy.
I've been very busy. Anyway, I actually I'm going to propose,
right. All right, so I'm mindful of everyone's time, and we have a lot of people joining live now, which is absolutely wonderful. I'm just going to record this, which is not giving me the option right now to record while I'm live streaming. Yes, it is. Okay, so we're recording. So each Monday at 1 o'clock, I bring you a live stream and also an interactive discussion on a hot topic. So today is how to stay sane in an insanely fast-changing world. And our guest, as I mentioned before, is Lisa Johnson, who's a holistic psychologist. When you register for our live webinars, you get to interact, you get to ask questions. So make sure that you're doing that throughout the conversation in the chat group. I'll endeavour to refer back to that as much as possible and to answer those questions as we go along. So keep them coming. You can also save the chat for later. So if you're sharing links with each other and, it's an opportunity to network, then keep popping those links in there. It's one of the reasons I ask you, who are you? What do you do? Where are you tuning in from? So my background is over 20 years corporate and over a decade in small business. I was a very successful international corporate executive, and I got fat, sick, but I was very successful. When I hit burnout, I retrained as a holistic health coach and I started my international coaching practice. I also got interviewed live on TV in front of 50 million people about my expertise, which is anti-burnout. And I have a number of other things I've done, like a TED talk, and I've got 3 best-selling books, etc. My passion is about communicating and raising awareness of the issues of burnout and providing a solution. So whether the solution is coaching with me, or whether the solution is, the Hot and Healthy Academy, which we've created, which is an affordable resource for, in particular, women in small business to thrive, or whether it is somebody that I know that I can refer you to, like Lisa Johnson, today's guest expert, and the huge network of people that I have to draw from and guide you to. It's very much about making sure that you know what burnout is. You set up systems and structures and support networks to make sure that you don't experience burnout. And if you have experienced burnout, you don't experience it again, or you recover really, really quickly if it happens to you. So a little bit about the Hot and Healthy Academy. It's designed at a price point of $47 a month. It's a subscription model to get access to business, mind, and body training from qualified coaches. It includes live coaching calls. It includes recorded modules. For example, here's an example of how to create your first ebook. And it's designed to help you come up with quick, smart, simple, common sense, practical ways to be successful in business, mind, and body. So go check that out. We've just recently added to our resource library and our modules a 4-week training course that's essential for small business owners on all the things you need to know to either run your own social media for your business or to outsource with confidence, because let's face it, outsourcing is a great way to avoid burnout, so long as you've got the finances to do it. Financial burnout is another thing that we cover. So let's talk about today's topic. I've had sessions with Lisa Johnson as well when my relationship with my husband wasn't doing so great and I needed some really great guidance. I found her approach unique and very holistic. So she's bringing her diverse background together with her psychology in the way that she approaches health, well-being, and success. And I'll ask her to introduce herself in a moment and give us a little bit about her background. And we're going to cover the 5 keys to staying sane in an insanely fast changing world, because let's face it, it's changing pretty dang fast. And if we aren't already equipped to handle change, and we're already coming from a place of maybe not as resilient as we could be, we need some strategies that we can implement fast to handle the fast change. So we're going to cover why change and uncertainty are so scary, key strategies you need to come through a period of rapid change, and not just come through it, but come through it stronger. 5 ways to create a sense of certainty and stability in uncertain times. Stress, so we need that any old time. So the daily management tools for you and the whole family, and potentially your colleagues and people in your workplace and even community. The essential mindset, food and fitness behaviors to help you become a thriver. We don't want you just surviving. We want you truly thriving. So I'm going to leave this screen up because I do, or I'll keep coming back to it just to make sure we stay on point, because as Lisa and I have discovered with each other, we could literally talk for days about our passion topics, and we need to keep on track with that. So Lisa, can I ask you to give a little introduction to you and your background and why you are a holistic psychologist?
Yeah, and I suppose the starting point is thanks for having me, of course, and thanks for those of you who can show up in the screen currently. And for those listening further afield, I want to, I suppose, stress a point that change is possible, help is possible. And for me, the holistic way is the way forward. The reason I came into psychology was I started in the complementary field, complementary medicine and preventative medicine when I was 18. So I started with kinesiology, remedial massage and yoga. And from that really got a thrill out of looking at the body holistically, looking at it from a Chinese and a Western perspective. So bringing those 2 sciences together. And then as time went on, then I decided that the mind was really calling me, and I wanted to explore and unpack that further, because that was really where I felt a lot of it starts and finishes. And so I wanted to become more of the bridge that bridged the 2 sciences together, the Eastern and the Western, and psychology would be the medium, because it was going to be able to tap into some of the hearts and the mindsets of people that perhaps I wasn't touching base with in more of the complementary medicine way. So I think there's a lot of people that are already on path looking at things more holistically in that alternative field, but in the mainstream field, I thought we had a lot to learn And so that's why I went into psychology as well. And Asami, engagement psychology, is my business name. Asami meaning a complete approach or a holistic approach. And so that I could work more preventatively, I actually completed an organizational psychology master's as well. And that enables me to work within people's spaces from a workplace point of view as well as a home life, because I think we are in part psychology of our mind and our body, but we're also in part of what we do within where we spend our time. So whether that's in our workplaces that, as you said, Nicole, can be quite toxic sort of spaces, or whether we're in our own private practice or being our own business professional, how we manage our own levels of energy and wellness, and how we grow our own business, whether it is something that will grow us and expand us, or whether it's something that's going to keep us small and not doing so great. So.
Brilliant, thank you. As I mentioned before, I have experienced your approach to psychology, and I found it reassuring, and you're very direct. You don't beat around the bush and expect me to have all the answers. I like that you were actually able to cut through my mental cloudy crap conversation and just kind of like give it to me between the eyes when I needed to have it. So I found that refreshing and also, powerful and transformative, and I appreciated that.
It's interesting, as a health professional, as a psychologist, typically we're not encouraged to be that directive or to try and have a client-centered approach. And I certainly sit really strong within that. And I'll say to clients, look, I'm here to work with you and for you. So some clients don't want to be doing homework and following up in between sessions, so to speak. And then other clients are like, they come in with their diary. They come in saying, please, I want to write down lots of different strategies and things. So you really got to meet people for what they want and need. And certainly when I met you, Nicole, it was, you wanted more of that forward, you wanted more of that frank, and you wanted more of that direction and challenge. Whereas some people, they prefer you to hold space for them. And they prefer for you to just hold that candle of hope sometimes. And as I say to each client, this is what I'm here to understand what you need from me to be able to offer you what you need for your growth and wellness. So yeah, we're all individual in how we do that, which is nice.
That's great. I love it. So, well, it worked for me, and I have recommended other clients to come see you as well. So let's talk about why change is scary.
Yeah. Look, I mean, there's so many things we could unpack with this, but one of the most important things is it's been pushed onto us. We kind of blindingly, we're just living our life, and suddenly this is what is kind of come about, and we haven't been given a choice within it. So from just a biology sort of point of view, it's like going, where was my choice? Where was my mistake? What did I do wrong? So suddenly we've had so many things stripped away and taken away from us. Our little safety net, our little ruggie, suddenly that's all been stripped away. And suddenly we're like going, well, who am I and what am I? And if I don't have my normal practice, and if I don't have my normal routine, what do I do with? So there's that sort of point. There's also a sense of people, we're all different in our personalities, but some people are very change avoidant. And so this change that we've been put into, again, is like going, oh, again, my routine, it's all disturbed. And being a bit change avoidant, well, I'm a bit fearful of change, actually. So instead of you, Nicole, you're an opportunist. You see change and you go, yippee, let's get exciting. What can we do with? And I'm not saying these times have been easy for you. I'm not going to make an assumption there, but you rise to some changes and challenges. Whereas other people go, oh, that's unpredictable. That's scary. And what happened in my past changes? Oh, my past changes. Oh, well, relationship breakdown, or did I lose a loved one? And, so there's a lot of things that come with that. And the other part that I wanted to share around this change and scariness of it is that I like to talk about us learning either from pleasure or pain. So we either learn from a pitchfork that is literally prodding us along, literally on our bum, moving us forward with pain, or we move forward from a sense of a magnet. We see this magnet, we go, wow, I'm going to learn from the pleasure, the wanting, the desire, the motivation. And this beautiful magnet's going to pull me forward. And as it pulls me forward, I'm each time getting stronger and more motivated. So the pleasure or pain part, and that I think the pain part of it, change is learning, and past people's learnings can be painful places, especially if they've been through trauma. So the last time I was forced into change was after this trauma or after this crisis. Geez, how did I deal with that trauma or crisis? And often this happens during our childhood or in the years when we didn't have a choice, when we didn't have a voice. We weren't empowered. We weren't able to tap into health services and supports. So that's why past traumas, and when we talk about childhood traumas, are so painful to us, because they affect our blueprint, they affect our neurology, and they affect us at a time when we're developing and we should be thriving. Our brain should be just expanding in such beautiful, nurturing ways. But unfortunately, not everyone has that beautiful, strong attachment and those beautiful core conditions of safety. So,
well, thank you for that. A lot of people are experiencing change that they didn't choose at the moment with COVID. And I think, whether it's a change in our employment circumstances or a drop in our business or the need to suddenly come up with a new idea or, new living arrangements with people working from home and kids working from home. And there's so much going on, and it does feel like it's done to us. And some of the change has come from opportunities of the change of COVID, and they could be seen as change that you've chosen to do for yourself. But I still find that super scary. I find, particularly if I feel it's a big decision that doesn't just affect me, but that could affect the people around me. Why do we find those scary? Do we not believe or trust ourselves? And we've been through change since we popped out of before we popped out.
Yeah, this change has, we haven't had anything that's even slightly similar for our generation. And yes, those who sadly have gone through war, and that live in war-torn countries, there's a lot of change and uncertainty that strips right underneath them. But for most of us, certainly as an Australian in my generation, and a lot of people over in the UK and USA and things like that, we haven't been through such challenging, traumatic sort of times. And let's talk about social media. Let's talk about what we're seeing and feeling each day. We're so global that we're noticing all these bits and pieces of footage. And these footages are sensationalized to make us respond, to make us react. And I almost say, sadly, it's like sometimes we have to police the common sense stuff. It's like we have to sometimes shock people into action, and it's impacting the wrong people. The people that aren't up to speed, that really weren't understanding that this was real and significant. Sure, they actually need some evidence. They need some raw footage. But for those of us who are early learners, who are actually quite sensitive to all of this, I turned off the media quite a long time ago. You can get enough information to guide what you need to be doing without having to constantly have that burden and that disturbance in your mind and those traumatic kind of footage pieces. So this is the other challenge with it all. We haven't been through anything like this, and therefore we haven't come out the other side of. And we've got these global pictures that are going around. So yeah, I make this interesting thing. Like, people go, oh, look, Australians, we've been through a lot. We get cyclones. We've had the bushfires recently. It hasn't really stopped in terms of challenges that have been going on for Australia per se. But if there was a fire just down the road or a bushfire locally, I could choose to go there and help. I could choose to be of service and be someone useful, or I could help out somebody who is working in those spaces.
Some of the support that I'm doing as well.
Just make sure that people are muted as they come into the room.
Yes, sir. But the thing with this virus is that not everyone's going to run to their neighbor who's got the virus, or going to run to the local hospital with people that are ill and sick to try and help. And clearly we don't want that from a safety point. But the issue then is we get this real sense of, oh, geez, I don't want this for me. I don't want this for my family. It's contagious. A bushfire is not contagious. I could go over to my neighbor's house who's burnt down, and I could be of service and of use. So that's a very safe thing to assist with. But viruses, who spreads them? Do we even know if dogs spread them? There's so much uncertainty that we're just working out as we go.
So I guess one of your strategies, and we were talking about the key strategies to come through a period of intense change like this stronger, would be to switch off what you don't need to tune into and be very sources of the information, how much time you spend consuming that information and sharing and spreading it, for want of a better word to say. And about, you know, sort of honouring, respecting the fact it's going to be overwhelming. The amount of information coming at us is like a tsunami. We've got Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, you know, the standard news channels. We've got radio. It's popping up everywhere. There are signboards on the freeway. It's phenomenal. It's like you're bombarded with the request or the requirement or the demand to pay attention to this thing which we don't have any control over. It feels like it's being done to us, but to, you know, say, well, I do have the right and the responsibility to switch off and be selective and say, no, I'm not buying in. You know, maybe you choose one source of information. You check the news online, a particular source every morning for 15 minutes, and then you're done. Yeah. You know, and you stay off social media. I mean, one of the things we did in the Hot and Healthy community was we don't talk about COVID. It's not mentioned. We don't talk about it. We did initially start talking about it in the early days, but noticed that it wasn't actually helping anyone to focus on how they could move forward and be more resilient, because there's a lot of fear and overwhelm about the amount of information and change, which is fair. However, we wanted our platform to be about how can you be healthier and stronger and more resourceful, mind, body, and business. And so I didn't actually ban it. I just didn't encourage it. And I deleted a couple of posts which were quite clearly fear-mongering and not based on credible resources or credible sources. But it passed really quickly. So I think we have to stand up for our own right to be, you know, we're sovereign entities and we have the right to go, that's not for me. I don't want that. I don't want to, I'm only going to take this much of what you're putting out there.
Yep. And what you're explaining there, you know, you made a really conscious decision to, you know, not be, like you said, fearmonger, but you made a conscious decision to make some healthy boundaries. So you were still informed, you still touched base with reliable sources, you made sure there's some validity within that. So you were still a sound of mind person that was able to act with insight, but wasn't charged on emotional fear and terror, you know, was still in the front part of our brain, away from the reptilian part of brain, which is just react, respond, and get angry, get violated, whack. So, yeah.
Well, I have to say, I do sound like a saint when you say it that way. And of course I am, I'm so zen. But I did spend 2 weeks going, literally, I'm in a state of freeze. Like I didn't really know what was coming and how to handle it. And I did buy extra toilet paper and I did go and buy extra tins of food. And I thought, well, whether I believe it or not, what is a practical strategy I can do right now to feel like I have some form of control over my world and my ability to protect myself and my family and to provide for those who may need me down the track. And then I got busy getting off any influences that weren't helping me achieve what I wanted, which was to be more resilient through the process.
And you also spoke of one thing really strongly as well, as you actually showed leadership qualities in what you chose to do with your healthy boundaries. And guess what? People follow suited. So you're a leader in your own right with this own movement, this own community that you have. And so you lead by example and go, well, I need to work out this for myself. So you made your own healthy boundaries. And then from that, you also then brought that within to your workplace, which is your community. And you went, you know what, this is not what my people need right now. This is actually disabling for them right now. How can we ensure that we are being part of the change, part of the growth? Because I can tell you what, it's very interesting to see the clientele group that I'm seeing at the moment, because they're not at the bottom of the barrel. They're not suicidal per se. They are pushed at the moment, and they've got an extra layer of pushness, and there's an extra layer of what's happening for them socially with that isolation. But there's a lot of people that are managing their anxiety very differently right about now. There's a lot of people, people aren't feeling they're not feeling as influenced by what's going on globally, actually. They're bringing back to the simple stuff. And some of the most unwell people that I work with are some of the most profound people that go, do you know what? Society's having a taste of what it's like to be in my mind. I am socially quite isolated quite often, and I've learnt to respect that. I've learnt to know what I need to do with that. And now other people in the world are having a sense of that. And I think there's a lot of learning and education that comes with that. And I mean, these are quite heavily traumatized, quite profound, you know, people have been quite violated for a long time in their life, sadly. But they're actually leaders, again, in their own right. And I said, I would love for those words to be articulated within my local community that I live in, because it's so amazing that there's this, I call it humble pie happening right now. There's a real humbling time when people are getting back to basics. They are choosing their people, they're safe people, they're people within their own home, or they're one select friend or two that they are confining in, sharing in, holding space for. And in that, there's a beautiful sense of community. And the humble pie part is the simple stuff, the eating, living, sleeping, surviving, breathing. You know, there's a lot of people going out baking cakes that they haven't baked before, staying home, parents actually seeing their children. It's remarkable what is happening. And tricky, absolutely tricky time. I mean, I'm seeing some families and children are really struggling as well. But again, I'm seeing there's a lot of people who aren't struggling. I'm seeing there's a lot of people that are connecting. Absolutely different story for people that have lost their income, their livelihood, their small business. I'm not going to try to gloss over that. There's nothing more debilitating than not being able to financially afford to pay and to provide for your family. And our livelihood and certainly our earning and our workplace can be a massive part of our identity. So for many people, that's been very much stripped and taken away. So there's no humble, you know, there's not a beautiful apple pie for that. It's humbling, but asking for help during those tricky times of desperation and despair. I mean, you know, these times do grow us and change us. And my ultimate saying is change brings change.
Well, I don't know whether change necessarily brings growth. Would you say it's guaranteed, or do you think it's more about how the person interprets and experiences the change?
Stages and places, I'd say. So for some people it does, for some people it does bring growth, but maybe not the kind that we would traditionally see, like growth of a tree going into the sunlight. It might be the depth of despair that drops down, and then eventually, hopefully, for people who can survive and get some help and some assistance, there can be some growth or some rekindling. I mean, take a bushfire sweeping through and taking everything. You know, some things do survive and some don't. It depends on the fragility of a person and the fragility of the environment that they live within. I mean, this is the environmentalist within me. I mean, that is the truth, isn't it? Not all will survive.
Yeah, well, it's a hard reality of life. Yeah. So when we talk about the 5 ways to create certainty and stability, let's talk about that during this time when people feel like they don't have the ability to create that.
Yeah, look, and I think also going back to the key strategies, rapid change, and it speaks to this point as well, and this speaks to another point as well we'll get to too, the very fact of self-reflection. What do I need right now? And one of the ladies was sharing before, she's another health worker, I believe, you know, right now we need to be grounded and centered. Right now we need to feel safe. That is something that we can do. So being able to self-reflect and go, right here and now, am I in immediate threat and concern? This is no different from someone having a panic attack. This is no different from somebody feeling, oh, I'm feeling concerned. Is there somebody outside? You know, what do I need right now to feel safe? How can I get more grounded, centered? And one of the biggest things that we know that changes with stress is our breath. We get that breath. What we need, and I call it a newsreader breath, it's like these muscles here just get all agitated. Yes. What is the ability that we have to breathe out, to actually release and let go? It's like breathing out is your ability to walk into this warm, beautiful bath that nurtures you, that holds you, that gives you that sense of soothing and care and kindness. And outward breath should be that surrender, should be that letting go. And the more that we practice that long outward breath, the more that we can relax and get back into that parasympathetic nervous system. So that ability to self-reflect, ground, therefore using the breath. What is your self-care? What are the things that we can bring in to make a routine? Because I'm seeing people gaining back an hour or 2 hours of not having to drive, not having to sit in public transport, not having to drop the kids off. Well, that's just restarted today. But nevertheless, there's a lot of people that are gaining back time. Are we able to have a ritual in the morning of actually people coming together and eating together, of appreciating this beautiful food, of savoring it, of eating more mindfully? When we eat, do we actually chew? Do we actually taste? Do we actually swallow with a sense of gratitude? We take so much for granted. We really do. So there's very much humble pie in that of going, stop. Let's stop and be in this moment. So what can we do as a daily self routine? I mean, most clients that see me, they will get their absolute wind down chat at night. And Nicole, you shared with me something about your wind down strategy that wasn't so healthy a while ago. What is our wind down strategy? You know,
Mine was literally a wind down, not a wind down.
So it used to be, you know, some people will actually have so much of something so that they don't have to use their amazing, beautiful brain. Why not pickle our brain? Well, why not actually wind down your mind and use kindness and use our 5 senses in our body to actually give ourselves a beautiful regime? Listening to the music, burning essential oils, giving yourself a nice self-massage, having a beautiful bath, having some amazing food. You know, we are having a bath, a sensory bath is how we wind down at night. And if we wind down nicely at night, we tend to enter into a deeper sleep. We tend to stay asleep. We tend to feel safe and trusted. That's what sleep is. We need to feel those conditions to actually go into that space. We don't discipline ourselves into switching off. Go to sleep now. Doesn't work. So most people that I work with will have some sort of wind down regime that we will develop together. And I mean, I'm even talking about 10-year-old little boy who was running up and down the hallway, panicked in like sheer terror because he's so exhausted. He's so tired. He so wanted to sleep, but he just couldn't. Very quickly, these things can change. We're just dealing with neurology and behavior. So anyway, so creating a self-care routine, it's reliable. It's settling, it's safe. It allows us to reset, and guess what? It gives us certainty. That's what we're after, certainty. And knowing thyself, you know, how much more can we connect with ourselves, our sense of values, our sense of attributes and our strengths? Get into who we are, use those strengths to drive our growth forward. And guess what? That will create more positive flow. In that whole positive psychology movement, it's like, you know, it's when like a musician picks up that violin and plays it and time stops. That's what we want. Time stop, effortless, engaging in the flow of life. It's beautiful. So some people are beautifully touching upon some nice times in their life now and making some good changes that fit within their soul, that fit to their value center, that fit to their attributes and their strengths.
I do hope that when things get switched back on and many people go back to the normal pace and speed of life and distraction, that they will remember what they experienced during this time, whether it was walking in nature every day or having quality conversations with their loved ones or taking more time over a meal.
Yep.
That they'll go, yeah, what I was doing before really wasn't going to serve me long term. Yeah. I might bring those things back as non-negotiables going forward. I think that will make us all resilient. I don't think this is the last time we're going to be handling change. So, you know, what can we learn from this and build into our new behaviour systems?
Yeah. I'm a very cheeky practitioner, as you know, too, Nicole. Like, so I work with quite playful ways and hopeful kind of ways. And one of my clients, she's a drinker and a smoker. And she said, wow, you know, I've been really enjoying working from home because I've been able to have a morning walk, a lunchtime walk and an afternoon walk. And I said, that's amazing, isn't it? And I said, where does this drinking and smoking stuff still sit? And she says, oh, well, I'm just not needing to do it in the same way. I don't enjoy it in the same way. And I said, isn't that magic? I said, you've walked yourself through your own kind of recovery. And I said, and here's me being the cheekiest person around. I said, let's just say you were to get this virus. I said, what do we know the risk factors are for having the virus? I said, do you want a healthy immune system? Sure. You know, do you want to make sure your respiratory system is already in step? Sure. I'm like, well, you know, the eating, sleeping, not having the naughty addictions, you know, building up your immune system right now, creating those feel-good hormones that we know is great for the immune system. I mean, it's all there. And I said, so if this time was ever going to do something healing for you, this would be the very time that you'd want to clean up yourself and really cleanse and be more of the purest that you'd like to see, and the one that you have the potential for. Because those unhealthy habits, they started long ago from painful places, you know, and they've just been reinforced and they've been borrowed into pleasant times. So she's living a fairly pleasant life now up until the virus, but nevertheless, she still had the old habits. So is this a beautiful time to challenge some of those behaviors? And sure, you know, she's taken that on. So it's
nice. Great. Did you have any more of the strategies? So I want to move on to 5 ways.
Yeah. So I thought the 5 ways I'd also bring into the next question of daily management tools for the whole family. I've got a fun thing of saying the 5 Ps. The 5 Ps, similar to what I've spoken about before, is about first P being present, being in the moment. What is it about it in this moment? If you look at children are pretty good at being in this moment. I'm talking about young children. I'm talking about children when they pick up this first stone or this first stick and they look at it really mindfully and they twirl it around, they feel it, they smell it, they eat it. They are so mindful. They're using their 5 senses. When you are present and exploring the stick, you cannot be stressed. You cannot be anxious. You cannot be flipping out. You're in the front part of your brain. You're learning about this amazing stick. So if you struggle being present and if you struggle relaxing and letting go, focus just on being present more. Pick up an object. Look at that candlelight. Follow it. Really connect with it and be present within it and see how beautiful it actually feels to be present. Or play with your puppy. Borrow some children to play with when we're allowed to. Watch what you see of somebody just following and being in that moment. So first P is present, being in the moment. Second P is purpose. What we mentioned before about having a sense of a vision and a mission. What is your unique offering? What is your unique contribution? We could talk about this, Nicole. What is your unique contribution that you feel that you can offer this world that is the best value add for everyone else around? I mean, you have a gift for connecting with others. You have a gift for making this interface and this face happy on, you know, these filming settings, happy on TV. I don't know where you get the confidence from, but anyway, it's amazing. You just show up and you just play and have fun. It's your happy dance. So your unique contribution is your gift of connecting other people and being that face, being that clown, you know, drawing people in, using your enticing charisma to go, oh, I want some of that. How do I get some of that? It's attractive. So being in purpose, being on your mission. The next P I spoke to is about posture. So posture, about physical activity, that sense of that ability to breathe out, that sense of that body's ability to release and let go, that sense of your physical movement. And I think Renee's there too. Exercise, guru, being able to move, get the endorphins going. Our body was designed to move. Let's talk about primitive engagement. You know, like evolutionary psychology talks about the fact that we were hunters and gatherers. We used to move around the place. You were really good at getting the berries. I was good at climbing the tree. We were all working together to collaborate, to come together, to assist each other's growth, keep each other safe, feed each other, connect with each other. So we want to keep on moving and grooving. And our body, I jokingly say that the day that a body is born with chair legs attached to their bum is the day we were designed to sit as often as we are.
Correct. Yeah.
So when we start giving birth to babies that have chair legs, then we know we are designed to sit. Up until that point, we're designed to move and stand. So
and to move the full range of motion too. Like I will say to people as well, you know, you've been sitting for so many hours or whatever it might be, and that's a certain type of motion. So even if you're moving in your chair or in your car or whatever you might be doing, but then when you get up, you might just be doing a slightly more extended version of sitting.
Yeah.
So you need to move all of your body in the full range of motion as much as you can. So when you get up off your chair, be mindful and conscious of which parts of my body haven't had movement for my lymphatic system, oxygenation, just general blood flow, feel good factor. We do the old foot binding in China. We're not doing much different than that with our full body when we sit in a chair.
Yeah, no, good point. And I mean, neurologically wise, more neurological pathways open up when we start moving. So the walking and talking, working through, what's going on in the mind can happen so much differently and with greater ease, actually, when we're walking and moving as well. So walking healing sessions can be really useful as long as the person feels safe. I give people a choice. If you want to go for a walk and talk for a part of the session, we can do that. Because that way we're getting value add from our exercise and breathing the fresh air, being more mindful, being more present. And it's amazing where those conversations can go. Very different to when you're in a cozy little corner in a little space. They both have their values, but certainly we're designed to move. Number 4, participation. Participate. We need to connect. We need to engage. We need to have that sense of belongingness. So there's very few people in life, even if you're introverted, it doesn't mean you don't like people. Introverted people do the connections differently. They tend to have more depth when they connect. The social butterfly might flutter around to 20 people in the party, and the introvert tends to have their 1 or 2 people. But the introvert will tend to have that depth and really get stuck into a deep conversation. And they don't need as much of it, which is nice. They're able to do a little bit more in their own mind and their own head. But anyway, we all need to participate. Very few people in the world can actually live in isolation and can be a healthy, happy hermit. It doesn't tend to happen. There's a reason why most people will do the hermit version. And it's not from a health and happiness point. So the word I've put in there, belongingness, when you participate with people, if that goes well, you have a sense of belonging. Do you feel like you belong within your workplace? Do you feel like you belong within your family? And when we don't, how hard is that? So that sense of belongingness is essentially important for us to be able to feel happy and healthy. So number 4, participate, build that level of connection and engage in meaningful things for yourself. And then number 5, I've put relevant to this time, is pause. Stop.
Just stop, exactly.
Take a peaceful pause. What does that pause do for you? Does it allow you to stop? Does it allow you to reflect? Does it allow you to reevaluate and go, hang on, I just want to check in with myself. What is my current level of stress, anxiety, excitement? Do you know stress isn't actually always a bad thing? People demonize stress. Health psychologists have poo-hooed it completely and said, hang on, we've been teaching you the wrong thing. Let's not demonize stress. Stress actually gets you out of bed for good reasons. I was stressed talking to you. Terrible. It's beautiful. I'm excited. I put positive stress and charge on myself to try and deliver and to try and do well. I want to assist people. I want to share something. So I need that clear in my mind. And so there's a level of stress that is really useful. We were designed to survive. We weren't designed to actually fall over and flop. So our body actually has so many natural abilities within us to keep us alive and well. It's just that the saber-toothed tiger of anxiety wasn't meant to design to attack us every day and throughout the day. That's the issue. When that anxiety becomes debilitating, that we can't leave the house, or that we're not allowing ourselves to grow and move forward and challenge ourselves and keep ourselves small and keep ourselves isolated, that's when the debilitation is. So the peaceful pause, I call it, the number 5P, pause, stop, reflect, reevaluate. Where are we at? Making choices. We were sharing before we jumped on, being brave enough to do something, being brave enough to step forth. Comfort zone doesn't always sit nice. It doesn't really always lead to growth. It's comfortable to be comfortable. Get it, granted. sometimes you've got to be brave and courageous enough to push yourself forward and do the next
And also
flight.
to acknowledge when you might have been through a change of enough, you know, a period of enough change, and go, you know what, I'm actually going to not allow anything to change in the future. So, for example, I made a decision recently, which would mean a significant amount of change in a short period of time in order to tick some boxes on this project. And then I sat back and went, right, so I've got this time to pause and breathe and reorientate, and I've just filled it with a whole bunch of activity, because I actually got addicted to the process of constant change and the challenge of moving forward. And then when I got an opportunity to take a breath, I was like, oh, that doesn't feel comfortable. I'm not comfortable with that. My comfort zone is constant change. But I was exhausted. And so when I acknowledged it, it's like, I'm actually really tired. What if I gave myself a year just to keep going with what I've got and don't add anything new or make any significant changes? How could that be of benefit to me and everyone around me over the next 12 months and beyond if I just took a nice big fat pause?
Yep, perfect. And again, coming back, you're a leader. So there's people that engage with you, tap into you, connect with you. So where you guide this ship, where you direct us within the community that you've got really matters. So you actually having more clarity and you taking those pauses more often to say, does this fit the brief? Is this actually going to add more chaos and complication and scatter me more? Or is it going to keep me on purpose, keep me on point, keep me in my areas of strength? We call them signature strengths in positive psychology. Beautiful bit of work. You know, we need to use that alignment to help guide us, and then be brave enough and courageous enough to follow through. Exciting.
Yeah, right.
So 5 P's. So
present, 5 P's.
So present, purpose, posture, participation, and pause. So many words, but you know, they're useful little things. The last little thing we spoke about was you put forth, you know, about essential mindset, food, fitness, behaviors. And I thought this actually speaks really nicely to the holistic way I work with people. And once upon a time, over 20 years ago, when I was 18, I came across kinesiology, and I came across it because I was struggling actually with learning difficulties. So I had the reading age of a 12-year-old and I was 18. I was fortunate to have 2 loving parents who helped me through school, and a father who's a special school teacher. So he thought I was pretty special, and he didn't realize that my challenges of reading and writing were actually challenges, because I always had the gift of the gab. And so anyway, getting 1 out of 10 for spelling, oh, well, at least you're just not academic, that's fine. But anyway, I finally listened to somebody and went along to see a kinesiologist, and through seeing him, I realized a lot of things. And then I got encouraged to get an educational assessment done. And so anyway, the learning difficulty or diagnosis kind of came out. And for whatever on the kinesiology, I decided was going to make a significant difference, and it did start the process. And so that's when I came across my Chinese medicine. That's when I came across that mind-body connection. That's when I realized that there was a whole range of things that was contributing to that learning difficulty and that learning disability in effect. And it wasn't just the wiring of my brain. It was also physical trauma, and it was also emotional belief, and it was all sorts of things that had come into this place. So anyway, the triangle of health was what I was introduced to. So we are what we eat, so nutrition and chemical. We are what we think and feel, so emotional and psychological. And we are what we do, physicality, movement, posture. So the triangle of health is a Chinese medicine concept. And then from there, and then when I finally was able to do university and get through this smart stuff and come through all of that, then I realized there's so many more things, obviously. And ultimately having that sense of professional career, some sort of satisfaction outside, because we spend so many hours at work, is another contributor to our health and wellness, as is that level of social connection and engagement, that sense of belongingness. So then also there's an element of spirituality that for some people is their absolute backbone and spine, and yet for other people it's not. So when I put together a SAMI, engagement psychology, and my model my model was made up of 5 to 6 things, depending on the person. So these are the things I thought I could share on that. So the psychological parts, you know, we need to look and do some exploration into this childhood aspect, childhood trauma, our belief system, our parenting, or what sort of attachment that we had, our experiences around education and our peers around that time, and then our feelings of our first kind of relationships. Obviously, also we've got our temperament, our personality that we were born with, but then also the shaping and the modeling of those factors from childhood and education. So our psychological well-being clearly is an important thing. It impacts what we think and we feel. Like I said, that first side of that triangle. The nutritional aspect of it, I've spoken a little bit about it today, but mindful eating, whole food eating, the simplest way to look at food. And this is not very controversial because food is very controversial. People are making a lot of money from it. And there's so many different fads and ideas. And there's some things that aren't fads and ideas. They're actually really good, but it depends on where you're at in your life and who you talk to. So nevertheless, I'm not a nutritionist, but I can say something really clearly about food is that we are what we eat, clearly. And the less number of people that have tampered with your food, the better your food will be. So the more time you spend in the grocery shop, the more time you buy foods that have been sourced from the ground tends to be better. Green leafy fruit, vegetables tend to be better for us. So less number of people that have touched and processed your food. It's better for the environment, less packaging. I'm all happy dance on that. So food and nutrition for me on the baseline is very simple. Anything other than the simplicity of whole food eating is when you need to speak to experts. But know that your food is very pinged on your nervous system. So people will love seeing a naturopath, a nutritionist, a dietitian to talk about their foods and their digestive health. They're not as interested in talking to a psychologist about it because we have to get deep and dirty about a few things that are a bit dark and gloomy for people. But guess what? Those things. So Nicole, you're eating a paper clean diet right now. But if your nervous system is all punchy and it's all stirred up and uneasy, you're in your sympathetic nervous system. You're in your fight, flight, or freeze. Your digestive system has gone to cactus and says, you know what? I need to survive this saber-toothed tiger. Once again, it's back with me, chasing me up that tree again. I don't know if I'm going to survive. So the body goes, I don't need to digest right now. I need to get away. So it's just pumping adrenaline through your body and cortisol. So the point of it is eat a squeaky clean diet, beautiful and brilliant, but at the expense of not working through your emotional and nervous system tension is kind of a little bit short-sighted. So anyway,
absolutely.
So nutritional side of it is important. We need to physically support ourselves. I've spoken quite a bit about that today. So we need the posture, the exercise, and my big bias is feel-good movement. We need to feel happy moving. If we're not feeling happy moving, what the hell? I'm starting with saying 5, 10, 15 minutes of movement a day and enjoy it. Not boot camp bitch. Sorry. I'd love you to enjoy exercise. If you enjoy exercise, you'll return and then you will build up the fitness. Then you will build up the intensity. I love mind body exercises, the yoga, the Pilates, or just mindfulness when you're exercising, senior PT. So feel good to start with, and then everything else. Yep. Playing tennis, table tennis, anything where you can have a bit of fun and laughter. People play squash until they realize that perhaps their joints don't hold up for as much or their Achilles tendon kind of breaks. Like I've had all sorts of people do all sorts of fun things. Yeah, squash is good. The professional side of it, it's about your organizational fit, your alignment with the organizational values or directions. You're running this organization, Nicole. You know, how do we align with that? Are you clear about what we need to have that alignment in that? The role clarity, role responsibilities. Again, am I able to offer something unique to the organization that I feel that they need and that they feel that is useful within me? So that professional side of things is something that I love working with, and I'm doing a lot more coaching of women in particular, women in leadership positions, women leaders, managers, because there's so much that we can do to support each other for that growth. within the workplace as well as the home life. So that work-life balance interface and the stuff that people don't talk to you about, as in conversation, normal conversations, is the stuff I'm privileged enough to hear in the clinic around the hardships of parenting, the hardships of relationships, and that whole interface. So professional health, social engagement, I've spoken to quite a bit too, belonging, connection, self-worth, self-esteem, and finally, just finishing up because I've got a client in 2 minutes, spiritual connection. So it's not for everybody. I'm not going to push that on, but for those people that have a spiritual practice, I think the practice, being the daily practice, is also what is so good about spirituality. As I also think there's a sense of trust and guidance that people get when they're feeling a connection with a higher power or higher good. That is something, again, that brings calm to the nervous system.
It gets us out of our heads and our need to have all the answers to solve all of our problems. When you can take to something bigger outside of yourself or put it in perspective outside of yourself, it definitely helps.
Definitely.
So I
haven't had any chats or any questions, so I'm really...
I know people aren't putting any chats, they're just drinking it in, which is wonderful. I just wanted to wrap it all up. So we do know people are struggling through a massive period of intense change. A lot of it they haven't chosen for themselves. They're trying to find some way to control it or to be able to find, the opportunities within it, to be able to find ways to manage stress, the stress not just for themselves, but the people that they love around them, whether that's in the home or in the workplace or in the business or community. I guess what I'm hearing you say as well is that it has to be a whole approach to the way that you look at being adaptive through change. And we've already mentioned, change isn't something new. It's not something that hasn't happened before. It might have come in a different shape or form or a different time or intensity. But the fundamental ways that we grow through change and that we are resilient and adaptive are the same. They don't change. Those things don't change. So it may not be the time right now to do much more than just survive for many people. But what we've talked about have continued to be worked on in small and large and incremental and major ways will set them up for greater resilience and adaptability and growth with whatever change is coming from, wherever it's coming from, within or from the environment around them. So thank you, Lisa. You shared an incredible amount here today. I'm super pleased. I just want to remind everyone watching this either live here, interactive in the chat group, or listening to the recording on our podcast, our TV show, or in the resource library for the Hot and Healthy Academy, is to reach out to professionals if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling like you can't quite cope, and get a plan in place, a proper strategy in place with a pathway and a roadmap, so that you can, make sense of the world and the opportunities and take advantage of them and help you stay sane and safe and stable and come out the other side stronger. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in. Thank you to Lisa for your time and expertise. Enjoy your client. And for everyone else, stay tuned for the next Hot Topics, which will be out Monday next week. Ciao for now, everybody.
Thanks for your time, guys.
Bye.
See ya.